to our symposium. We now have our first panel, which is on English text and social media. In this panel, we are glad to have invited Professor Michelle Ye, Assistant Professor at the Department of Translation, to be our moderator. We have three presentations respectively by Professor LAM Wai, Professor Cheung, and Professor LIANG Hai. Before passing the stage to Professor Ye and our presenters, may I invite Ms. Cheung to present some souvenirs to our moderators and presenters. First, may I invite Professor Ye, please. Professor LAM Wai, please. Professor Hong, please. Professor LIANG Hai, please. Please, all speakers and Ms. Jones, please have a group photo. Thank you very much. Now I'll pass the stage to Professor Michelle Ye.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I feel a little embarrassed and a little guilty for not being able to present today, but still received a souvenir. I feel obliged to say a big thank you for the library for having me again in the Digital Scholarship Symposium. I had a chance to speak on my little tiny digital analysis project on a very small data set compared to the 6 billion text base that we've just had a wonderful experience learning about in the morning. And I'm very happy to be able to be here again and introducing the three very excellent speakers who will guide us through the digital methods of text mining with a focus on different contexts such as digital classroom, social media, and such. And it would be, I think it would be a really exciting experience for every one of us to move beyond experimental projects to the great minds behind all the new possibilities open to us nowadays, and to understand more about how our knowledge is being transformed by these new methods. So without further delay, may I ask you to join me in applauding for our first speaker, Professor LAM Wai. Professor LAM is professor at the Department of Systems Engineering and Engineering Management in our university. He has published extensively on information retrieval, text mining, and natural language processing, including presenting on the topic automatic text classification models, applications, and research trends. Professor LAM, please.
Thank you, Professor Yi. This morning, I would like to present a topic about text mining, a specific topic under text mining, which is automatic text classification. If you have worked on text classification before, probably most of the content you may already know. Because I wish to give some general concept about automatic text classifications to general audience. So that's why maybe at the beginning part and the middle part, for those who already work on text mining, text classification, you may already know. But near the end, I will present. I will mention some advanced models. Okay. Nowadays, there are lots of text data. For example, companies create a huge amount of content or information in the form of text data, like reports, emails, news articles, and so on. And also social media. Okay, also contain web pages that contain huge amount of text content, like blogs, customer reviews. So what is text classification? Text classification, as I just mentioned, is one kind of data mining techniques. There are also some other kinds, but now I would like to focus on the text classification or text categorization. Okay, in fact, it is an activity of labeling text documents or text data with tags. Okay, tags. Those text information can be of a natural language form or unstructured text. Sometimes we call it unstructured. The input can be unstructured text. And then what is the output? The output is some text, general text, TAGS, okay, text. This text usually comes from a predefined categories. Okay, so here's a simple example. Okay, we have input text there, and then the text classification model, suppose is a automatic model, and after analyzing the content of the text data, then it will automatically determine some text as the output. Okay, like a document, it may after analyzing the content of the document, it may output categories like sports or entertainment and so on. And typically, this text comes from a predefined categories, set of categories. Okay, so there are a lot of applications in different areas because it can tackling the content. It can help improve browsing, especially if there are large amount of text documents. It can help a search engine to crawl and search engine optimization. It can also have application in social media. You can classify social media conversation, okay, or identify, for example, pending conversation on social media, so that we can provide a quick response. You can also analyze customer reviews, text reviews, and conduct a sentiment analysis. Okay, identify what is the sentiment in the reviews. Okay, and also we can use that to understand email in business world. Here's a simple example. Consider this simple text. Okay, the user interface is quite straightforward and easy to use. Then a text classification, or sometimes we call a classifier, can take this input text as input and then analyze its content, and then automatically assign the relevant text, for example, user interface, to this piece of a text document. There are some common approaches, so the computer can automatically achieve this purpose. I will introduce two broad approaches. So one is called rule-based approaches. The second approach is called machine learning-based approaches. Both approaches are really actually used in handling, in solving the text classification problems. Okay. For rule-based approach, it requires human domain experts. It requires more human domain experts. For machine learning-based approach, basically it tries to automatically construct or sometimes we call learn a classification model based on historical data. So machine learning-based approach can make use of, can exploit some existing historical data and try to automatically learn a model. Okay? So sometimes we call this historical data, we call training data. So I will briefly describe a rule-based approach first. Okay? Typically, use a set of handcrafted linguistic rules. Okay, so this rule typically can tell the computer system how to do classification. Okay, it may involve some semantically relevant elements of the text, okay, to identify the appropriate categories based on the context. Okay. So each rule can be, the form of the rule can be quite simple. Okay. Normally has two parts, the antecedent part and the predicted category part. Okay. So intuitively, we can understand a rule something like this one. Okay. If some condition happen, then we can classify to a particular category. So we use a simple example to illustrate that. Suppose we want to classify news articles into two categories, sports and politics. Then to develop rule-based approach, we may ask a human domain experts to define some words, some terms that can characterize these two categories. Okay. For example, for sports category, we may, the domain expert may identify terms like football, basketball. Okay. These are related terms for sports category. And then for politics category, we may identify terms like Donald Trump, this kind of terms. Okay, then when an incoming text needs to be classified, the system or the model, they count the number of sport-related words that appear in text and do the same for the politics-related words. Okay, and then we can write a classification rule, something like if the number of sports-related words is greater than the number of politics-related words, then we classify the text into sports. Okay, so we can write this kind of rules and tell the computer, okay, follow this rule to do classification. So we can see that we need some human domain expert to specify this kind of rules. This kind of rule typically involve some linguistic element in the text. It is in some application it is still quite useful. Okay, although it involves a domain expert, but only at the beginning stage. Once the rule has been written down, then it can be fully automatic. Okay. The classification operation process can be fully automatic. Also there are some advantages. Okay. The classification knowledge or the rules is human comprehensible. Okay. Ordinary human will know what is the criteria of classification. But however, it requires extensive knowledge of the domain. Defining the rule, writing the rule can be time-consuming. In some application, it may be too consuming. And also in some application, the rules can become quite complex. Okay, if the association of the text content and the category have some complex association, then if you write rules to specify those associations, the rules can be quite complex. Then it will become ineffective. Okay, then I will talk about the second approach, which is also quite common in recent years. The second approach is the machine learning approach. Okay, then what is machine learning? So I give just one or two slides to give you a brief sense of what is machine learning. It's a branch of artificial intelligence. Normally, it works with data. So if you consider machine learning approach, you need data. So data is essential. The machine learning approach works with data and process the data so that it can automatically discover some patterns. That patterns can be also captured in the computer, and then it can we later used to deal with new data. We need to make use of specific representation of data so that the machine learning approach can work. And sometimes we call the data representation, we extract features to represent the data, to represent the text. So, and these features are understandable for computer. Sometimes why do we call learning? Because it can automatically analyze the data and then output or learn a model. Okay? So this is why we call the learning aspect of this kind of approach. And normally the data, the form of the data is that it contains association between text and category. So not just any kind of data. So the data need to contain association between text and category. So basically, it's like a teacher. The data is like a teacher. It should contain information like if this piece of text to be classified, then the category should be what. Okay, it should contain such kind of information. So it's like a teacher. Tell the computer, tells the machine learning algorithm, okay, provide information for the machine learning algorithm. Okay, give examples. If you see this piece of text, then the correct category should be this one. So that's why we also call it training data. So the data can be used to train the computer to output a model. Okay, so this is a diagram to summarize a high-level view of machine learning approach. Okay, so you have some input text document, and then it extracts features and from the document, and the features can characterize the text content, and then it goes through a machine learning algorithm. Okay, the algorithm suppose can analyze the data, and then automatically output a text classification model. Okay, so this is an overview of a machine learning approach. The learning part, the training part. Okay. Once the text classification model has been automatically created, then it can be used to do operational classification, okay, like the bottom. So this text classification model is learned from the training process. Once it has been learned, then it can be used to do classification on unseen document, unseen text. Okay? The text go through a similar process, feature extraction, and then the text classification model can analyze the content of the unseen text document, and then it will output the predicted answer, predicted categories. Okay. So that's why we need some way to represent the text information. So I will just give you some brief idea, very fundamental. So these are very fundamental. Again, if you have worked on text mining, you probably already know. But some of you may not have actually worked on that, and it's good to know the idea. Okay. First, to analyze the text content, we need to do tokenization. Okay? We identify the words or the terms from a piece of text document. This process is called tokenization. For example, this is a simple text, friends, Romans, and countrymen. It may, after tokenization, the output may be something like this. Okay, there are 3 tokens of friends, Romans, and countrymen. So then each token is a unit, okay, for next for subsequent processing. And then we may sometimes do some processing on some token, special token. If the word is a numerical representation, we may transform it, we may convert it to indicate it is a numerical represent number. Okay, it's a number. And then we may build a very large vector to capture the output of organization. And there are several common representation. Okay, after that, like this three common representation: term existence, term frequency base, and term frequency inverse document frequency base. Okay, for term existence, it's quite easy. First, you define a dictionary of terms. Okay, beforehand. For example, this is a simple example. We have a small dictionary like Beijing, Tokyo, and so on. Okay, this is a very small dictionary. Then to represent the text, the document, basically you try to see what are the terms exist in the document. Okay, suppose we want to represent the sentence here. Beijing is the capital of China, and Tokyo is the capital of Japan. Okay, we want to represent this document as a small piece of document. Then we can use the vector below, shown below. Okay, each element in the vector indicate whether the term exists in the document. So this is the term, the most simple representation. Then we can improve a little bit by counting the frequency. Okay, instead of just considering the existence of terms, we can count how many times the terms appear in the document. Okay, then we call it a term frequency approach. So this is actually rather simple, as you can see, but it turns out quite useful. So this is the example of a term frequency based approach of the same sentence. Okay, so instead of just 0 and 1, you can see there are some number like 2. That means that term occurs 2 times. Okay, we can further improve this simple representation and consider the whole document as a whole also. The collection of documents. Okay, consider as a collection of documents. We can count. We call it document frequency. We can count how many times the number of documents in the whole collection contain this term. Okay? We call document frequency. So this turns out also useful to characterize the importance of a term. Okay? For this, suppose we have 3 documents. This is a simple example. Then the document frequency of China is 2. Okay, so that means it occurs in 2 documents in the whole collection. And this is the document frequency. And because for document frequency, the lower the better. Okay, for lower the better. So we can usually inverse it. Okay, then we call inverse document frequency. For inverse document frequency, the higher the better. Okay, so I will move to the slightly more advanced model. Okay, how to build machine learning model. Only mention the name. Okay, for example, we can use a vector space. Okay, because after we represent a document by the representation we have just seen, then it can be visualized like that. The training data can be visualized like that. Then for vector space, we build decision boundary, okay, something like that. Then this boundary is the output of the machine learning model. Actually, recently, the state-of-the-art model, the model with the best performance, is based on neural network. So I only mention just the name. Okay. Neural network, okay, and then give you. So this is the fundamental of neural network. Probably I will skip. I will give you some real neural network that can solve quite challenging text clustering model. So this is one of the models. You can see there are many neural network units. So that's why sometimes we also call it deep learning. But the fundamental of machine learning is the same as what I have discussed before. Basically, it analyzes the training data and then output a model. And the model this time is a neural network model that can do operational text classification. Okay, finally, I'll give you some actual application. For example, many companies want to know the sentiment of their customer review. So it can be used to analyze the customer review and determine what kind of sentiment, positive, negative sentiment. So many companies want to know the sentiment of the product. This is one application. The other application is question answer, okay, or business email understanding. I have a project doing business email understanding, trying to understand email in certain domain, okay, between the company and the customer. Okay, so I think I'm over. That's all.
Thank you, Professor Lam, for the very wonderful presentation. I'm sure this is a very simplistic and yet very informative overview of the historical background of all the models available behind text learning. So may I now open the floor for some discussions? Questions, please.
Among the classification, right? Which one is the most effective in dealing with Chinese? Is it SPM or topic modeling?
I think still if you have some, I mean, all this, first you need to have sufficient data, sufficient training data. Then if we have sufficient training data, then Bilingual will still be the most effective.
How sufficient is sufficient? How big does the data set have to be?
Yeah. Actually, it depends on the association. So now actually we are talking about the association of text content and the category, I mean the association. Some association can be quite simple. Then we don't need a lot of data, like in the range of 50 or something. But some association is quite complex, complicated. Then we need lots of data, several hundred, for example. And if the for some situation you may need more. So actually it depends on the complexity, the underlying complexity of the association between the text content and the category. So typically for those high level association is easier. For some association require complicated domain knowledge. Those are difficult.
Even if we have a sufficient set of training data, do we need human being to verify that the data is classified correctly?
Yeah. Actually, it's a good point. Actually, this is just the underlying technology, but how to use this technology in practice, it will also need to be considered verification of the result, and also it's an iterative process. It's not just one shot. It's an iterative process, very typical. I mean, the model predicts something, and then the human need to look at it whether it's reasonable, and then it may give us some hints how to improve the model. Like after examining the result, typically it will give us some hint how to improve, or sometimes the data can be improved. Sometimes the technical part, the machine learning model can be improved. So all this need all this need human, okay, when it comes to this.
Just a quick follow-up question. For instance, if a piece of text say Donald Trump visits the football field today, do we classify? I understand that we can classify into two categories, but I believe it would need human beings' intervention to determine whether it's a politics or a sports.
It's also it's a good point about the application of text classification, such kind of model. Depends on application. In some application, maybe one thing first, for text classification, it can classify more than one category. It has the ability to classify both sports and physics. It has such a capability. But also depends on application, whether that application require multiple prediction or just one prediction. Yeah. And if that application require just one prediction, then the model need to adjust so that it will output the highest probable answer. So it's not just technology. I mean, if you put it in real-world application, it needs also involve the understanding of the domain, understanding of the problem, work with the domain expert together in order to deliver a practical solution.
Perhaps we can take one more question.
Thank you. I'm just wondering in terms of what kinds of computational power you need to do these kind of analysis. So based on your own research, for example, is it something you do in your office PC, or do you need to go and get a server or something like that?
I mean, the most computational resources required is the training times. Once we have trained a model, when we put in operation, we call testing or operational setting is very fast. That can be done in office PC, in a normal PC. But training really require large computational resources. Then for training, depends on the amount of training data and the model. Okay? If you have a huge amount of data and you use this deep neural network model, then you will need a server. You need GPU server. GPU is a kind of latest kind of hardware that can do parallel computation. Yeah. Then if your data is large and you use this deep neural network model, you need that kind of hardware.
The natural follow-up question is how large is large?
Billions of training data, thousands of category, long document.
Okay, thank you, Salam, for the very wonderful discussion and valuable input. I think Salam just elevated our optimism about the role of researcher as not only the initiator, the filter, but also the supervisor, monitor, and integrator of machine learning models and such. And that's why we need Professor Lam. And in fact, it's so important that he has to a meeting afterwards. So let's thank. And I would like to welcome our second speaker of our panel. Okay, may I invite you to join me in welcoming Professor Cheung as our second speaker. Professor Ngong. In the Department of Mathematics and Information Technology, as well as the Director of Center for Learning and Teaching Technology at Education University of Hong Kong. And today, he will give us a presentation on bilingual text mining for inspiring personalized reflection.
Okay, thank you. And today I'm going to introduce a bilingual text mining system. Why bilingual? From NUHK, I'm from the Education University. I'm always thinking about how to use technologies to support learning and teaching. So the core is how to support. So in NUHK, we are promoting the use of Moodle for the discussion forum. For the discussion forum means we have a lot of text generated in the platform. So if the teachers are going to read each single pieces of discussion, yeah, it can be done. But if you are talking about MOC, you're talking about a lot of discussion forum, text generated, and how are you going to manage a huge amount of text generated? So we did text mining. And why bilingual in Hong Kong or in NUHK, when we have so many in-service teachers who come to join our 5-week courses, that means if we request them to, especially those primary school teachers, if you ask them to write in English, they may not be able to express themselves. Then the text, even though generated, but not reflect what they understand. So we have the freedom of choice that they can write in Chinese or write in English. Then we need a system that can handle bilingual. When we go around the world to search for any system that can entertain bilingual text mining, I think you can't find it. So that's why we start from the very beginning is a bilingual text mining system. For the bilingual text mining system, we have 3 parts. One is about the capture of the text. Okay, the capture of the text is from Moodle or Blackboard. So for this project, actually CUHK is one of the partners, and they use the Blackboard, and we use the Moodle. And then for we have also the partner from BU, they use the Moodle, and then we have another partner from LIANG University, and they use the Moodle platform. So we have the 4 universities working together on this project. So of course we build the text mining system. And then the outcome is, what is it? The outcome should be something you can read using your mobile device. So we have the hierarchical visualization using the web browser. You can read, the students can use their own mobile device, either iPad or anything, or just a mobile phone. They can read what we have generated. So everybody, when they're traveling, they can read the outcome, what they have discussed, what are the discussion outcome, what are they? So we want to show them to the students, but of course, we want to show the teachers the learning outcome. So the main purpose of the pre and post reflection comparison is to enhance the learning teaching of the students. And the teachers can make some pedagogical decision making out of the learning outcome. So if from the text analysis you find there are some inadequacy, then the lecturer, the professor can adjust or emphasize more in some area. You can see a lot of examples in this text mining system. So actually in NUHK we built in a button that is forum download. For implement such a simple button into the Moodle platform, you need half a year. Because you can't do that. Because many people said you increase, you try to fix this one into the system, they may ruin the whole system. So that's why they do a lot of testing. So actually we run in our home server first, make sure it can work in the Moodle platform, in the pilot run, and then we put it in the system after half a year. Now in NUHK, every single lecturer can make use of the system because it has been implemented and can be used by anyone in the university. So we extract the data and then we do the further analysis. So initially we don't, this is the Excel file, that is the data that we extract from the Moodle and become an Excel file. And then here are the interface about the text extracted. We have the text mining system. We have some choices. Why we need the choices? Because our system is not everything automatic. Especially for the data analysis, we use our own keyword framework. The keyword framework means the human being has to define what are you going to teach, what are the keywords, and this becomes the very priority or the barrier that you can't do it by many academics because they don't have the framework in the teaching. So of course we have some alternative that we don't have any framework. That means you may not have a very clear idea about your teaching, and you don't have your own framework. But some of the teachers did have a very clear framework that what he is going to deliver, then they have a framework. So from my point of view, I'm always teaching e-learning for many primary school teachers, so that when they go back, they can implement e-learning in their own school. So the key understanding in my class is, what is e-learning? If they cannot define what is e-learning, when you go back, you are in charge of a whole school and working about e-learning in your own school, then what is it? So that's why we put a lot of emphasis on that good understanding, or at least from my perspective, what is a genuine understanding of e-learning, then you can go back and deliver in your school. So in this context, we have to build a system so that can entertain the building of a framework, keyword framework, and then extract the text, and then we can do the bilingual text mining with some outcome. So I don't go into the details. If you are the technical people, I think you know what we are talking about, the file and the engine. Okay, LDA, text mining, and another engine. Next man engine is also used. Professor LAM Wai is talking about the better work technology. We are also using that for ranking the sentence into order so that you know what are they automatically, not by reading every single sentence, you can have a sense of what the core the students are talking, the forum. So, okay, we have the LDA. Why we need the LDA? Because some teachers didn't have any framework. Then they can make use of the LDA just to extract the most commonly, frequently occur words into the framework. Framework may be very simple because LDA just lets you to separate the text into several topics, but without your own input, just let the system to do it. So this is not the best one, but anyway, you can suggest for those who don't need any framework, then you just use the LDA. There's a kind of, you just say, I need two topics. They will differentiate the words into two topics for you, 3 or 4. In general, I can try it. Then sometimes, because I'm doing bilingual text mining, one of the topic they generate, all the Chinese word becomes one of the topic. And then the English word separate into maybe two topics, and then you have to interpret what does it mean, because it is automatic. So the second one is we define the framework, and then if you define the framework, then we have to do the matching keyword. So we use the text mining system to do the automatic counting, how many keywords has been counted. And then finally, recently, in this year, we go into the next rank, because using the keywords, the advantage is simple, because there's a keyword. But when you as an academic or a lecturer, when you just read the bubbles on the matching of the keywords, you may not satisfy. You may want to go further, one step. What's the meaning of that? Then we go into the next rank of the sentence, so that you have some idea of what they are actually discussing. Okay. So we need to define the keyword, and this is the most difficult part. So what's the input of a framework? For me, if I want to define what is e-learning, then I need a theoretical framework. So I read literature to see what people are talking about e-learning. So that is a theoretical framework. And then I can enrich the keywords by picking up the keywords from the students to enrich my keyword framework, because my literature is on the air, but our students is on the ground. You have to pick up the word to enrich your system. Make sure when they do the analysis, there's something you can match. More keywords can be matched. So that's why we need both literature review and enriching the system. Of course, we also use the LDA to suggest some of the keywords so that by human, I enrich my keyword framework so that it can perform better. So, so this is the keyword framework. So this has been done for many topics. Because I'm the PI, the most interesting thing, or I can share more, is about actually what is e-learning in the school environment. And we work with BU. They put a lot of effort to understand academic integrity, and especially for the students just enter the university for the first year, everybody asks them to write something about what is academic integrity. And if they do have some intervention, what is the outcome after you have some intervention? Did they change because of your activities? So this kind of activities, you involve hundreds of students. Then you don't want to read into every single sentence. Then you need the text mining to support your understanding of what they're writing before the intervention and after the intervention. So I'm also doing some statistic courses. I am doing a lot of conversational thinking activities. So that's why the first 4 is my preference. The other are from the CUHK colleague. It's about food chemistry and other initiatives. So these are the topics that have been tried out using the system. So, okay. So the keywords we have to set, and then we use this is a little bit about LDA. I don't want to go too much time about the LDA. So the LDA is the topic you select, and then they just using the topic 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they just categorize by the system. So this is the, okay. Now this is another one that I want to let you know is about the e-learning. So actually, I put a lot of effort to understand what is e-learning. So I differentiate e-learning into two hierarchies. One is about technology, the other is about the pedagogy. So I suppose when you talk about e-learning, at least you're not just talking about technology, but you're also talking about some pedagogy. The issue is, what is pedagogy? What is that? That is difficult to define. But anyway, if you don't define, what does it mean by pedagogy? You always talk about pedagogy, this word. I always hear it. But I never heard the first word about pedagogy. So I have defined what is pedagogy. Pedagogy means you have some principles, some models, some theories in behind your brain, and then you have some activities delivered, you asking students to discuss, or in individual reflection, and so on and so forth, right? So anyway, this is a high-level understanding that if the students are always talking about pedagogy and always just talk about activities, the limitation is they don't know actually what they are doing in the pedagogy. So they need something in behind. What is your belief in behind? That is some principle, student center, flip the classroom strategy. You have something in behind and you do something. So that's we categorize into principle, theory, models, and then activities. And then the other one is different. The other one is about the pedagogical decision making. Now in general, it's about the test result, the score, the number. But actually nowadays, we are not just talking about the number. We are talking about the text generated in discussion forum. That's why we need something like this system to put up some understanding on what they are discussing so that you can lead and guide the discussion. So that's why we need pedagogical decision making through something like text finding. You have something to write on so that you can make up decision making. So what is technology? In general, this is even more difficult because technology is talking about AI, talking about VR, so on and so forth, always changing. So we don't talk about that kind of technology because always you can't predict what is the next technology going to be just overflow the discussion. But in general, when we talk about education, when we talk about technology, you are using e-resources in general. You are using the digital ways of communication, actually. You are using the digital ways of collecting data. So I categorize when you are talking about technology, don't just tell me I'm the school principal, what are you doing on e-learning? I buy some iPad, I put it in somewhere there. So you don't want to talk about that. Then if you go into the second layer, it's about the use of resources, the use of digital ways of communication, and the ways of use of the data you collect. So in general, they can only mention initially about the e-resources in general, and they just come to us, but they never notice that digital ways of communication is important. Why? We are talking about constructivism. We are talking about knowledge building. So it can't be just some resources that learning will happen. It won't happen unless you guide them, you put them together, you support each other for peer learning. So that's why we treasure a lot in e-learning about digital ways of communication. Of course, this is not just directly saying, you're in the classroom. Okay, I and you do not talk. You just chat me, text me. We don't mean that because the computer is there. We can talk to each other, pointing to the computer interface to discuss something. You are more enriched in the discussion because not just the dialogue between you and me, but actually you are supported by external resources and some application. So that kind of communication is important. So that's why but we put one more digital technology there. In general, at the beginning, they talk a lot of just hardware, infrastructure, Wi-Fi, and that's it, about e-learning. So that is not what I'm going to have. That is the very beginning, but not the end of the story. It is just the beginning. So that's why, now okay, making use of such a framework, of course, I did a lot of effort to put up my building the framework so that I can do the text analysis, and then making use of the framework, and then I can extract from the forum, and then I can do the analysis. In the first day, when I do the text analysis, it takes 1 day before you get the answer. It's no use, right? But of course, after the discussion, you don't need immediate feedback. But actually now we can do in the class, you just finish the discussion, okay, we can click, and immediately now it's automatic. You can see the text mining result directly, immediately, now. Just within a few, 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, so what they have to do is, of course, to define the keywords. In general, we build an interface to let them build the framework. But that is not effective. The most effective one is just to use Excel. Put the keywords there and key by yourself, because that saves a lot of time. So by the end of the day now, most of the people, when they define the keyword, they just use the Excel to key in all the keywords. You can see the English and the Chinese term. So the English and the Chinese, we use the Google Translate to make sure that we don't miss any of the, yes, 5 minutes. I'll be very quick. So this is the bilingual keyword, and then we import the framework and then the text, and then we can, this is the courses that I'm teaching. A lot of courses I'm teaching, so I pick which forum I want to do the analysis. And then I do it, and then, okay, you can see the result. A very interesting result on e-learning that has been done for more than 8 times already. I have more than 8 classes taking my course, and I use the data. This is only one of the class. So at the very beginning, they talk about technology 77 matching, and then 63 on pedagogy, less, right? But by the end of the course, after several lessons, you see the pedagogy, the matching work is 200, and then the technology also go up, but the proportion is the pedagogy go faster than technology. So you can see, and I'm comparing the PM post-teaching this kind of hierarchical visualization. I can easily sort out what are the inadequacies. You can see there are some dot here without, not in orange. That means nothing, not even one keyword for the whole class appear in that part. So you have to pay more attention to those the dots. But by the end of the day, you can see there are also still 1 or 2 very small dots there. That means there's still something not being emphasized enough so that the students cannot get. So this is a kind of technology that they can zoom in. If they want to go into the orange board, they just click it, and then it can be zoom in and then see more keywords within that category. And this is about the size, that is how many keywords, and then coverage, elaboration, proportion, and then correlation. I elaborate a little bit on, why we need correlation between the board? Because one of the key points is here. Now, if the students are talking about activities with some keywords here, and it's about the theory, we find that in the initial teaching reflection, the correlation between these 2 parts is very low. No correlation. That means they kind of talk something about, okay, student center, but they don't articulate the student center approach with the learning and teaching activities. They remember some words. It appears, but no meaning. But after the intervention, we find high correlation between the principle and the activities. That means they now have a good understanding that how to articulate the relationship. Then you have to know about some of the area you want to see whether they have correlation. That means are they going to put that together in one sentence or in one person reflection. That means that is the kind of correlation that we want to look into. Okay, I have to be very quick. So this is about the comparison. It's about the elaboration, the data, the size, and then it's about the coverage, and then the elaboration, the numbers, and then the proportion, because bigger is more matching keyword, and then finally is the relationship between the both, the correlation, positive and negative, and so we also, if the teachers want, in general, you don't want to read this. So that's why we put that in the bubble. And then you can click in the bubble and elaborate more. But they still can read in the number. Okay, finally, I just want to show you very quick. These are the examples from the 4 universities. Very quick. So this is my e-learning, academic integrity. Okay, academic integrity, a very interesting part is, by the end of the day, the post-teaching reflect that they have a much better understanding of academic integrity because of the input of the activities. Hypothesis testing, and then computational thinking, then, I have to be very quick. So what is very interesting, they have no framework here, not much. And then, this is about classroom management. They have their simple framework, so they can categorize them. And for this one, it's very interesting. For the teacher, they teach, and the teacher tell me that initially, because it is very classical for the psychology component, very classical. We have all the all the keywords are there. But after he or she read the outcome, he shocked by the outcome because there are so many poor, especially even afterwards, still a lot of grade poor. Then the teachers start to reflect. What is the teaching that he or she is delivered is effective? Because this is by the end already. They suppose they should learn everything, but I think that too much they have to learn. So that's why the outcome is not so favorable. So it triggers reflection for the teacher. Okay, I just go forward. And you can see some of the teachers are very ambitious. There's so many keywords that they want to pick up so much in one course. So that's that you can see this is about whole life. Okay. Okay. Finally, this one. Okay. Recently, we find that we better to stimulate individual reflection. So in general, we are compare the whole class, P and post, but it can inspire personal reflection because that is a group. It's not touching to you personally. Then, in this academic year, we pick Stella as a personal example. We highlight those keywords which are matched by Stella only. And Stella, together with the whole class, then Stella compare, do I match? What keyword I match? So this kind of comparison, it can stir up the individual for reflection. So that's why my topic is about we want to stimulate personal reflection. So initially we don't have this one, but now we want to send an email. Okay, the problem comes. You send email to me. That means you identify me. Then they trigger a privacy issue, right? So if this is a teaching, a consensus between the teacher and the student is fine. But if it's not a binding between you and me, then why you identify me if I don't like this kind of learning outcome, if I don't want to receive? Then it leads your relationship with your students, whether they want to receive this kind of email. That's why initially they don't do it. But many comments say, oh, this is just in a group, not personalized, can't support learning. Then another issue comes, this is private issue, why you do something like this? So always people just sitting there and just this and that. I just said, if you have a good relationship, okay, do it. If you can't, then don't do it personally because you want them to learn. Are they willing to learn? I don't. So that is the difficulty, of course. But of course, we have done this technically, whether this can be implemented. So that's why now this is about all the keywords we expect. So this is the matching keyword from the student. So the students now know. Yes. Okay. Thank you. About the individual. Okay. So actually, we can now. This is a group. Students are grouped together. So this is a group learning outcome. So initially only a whole class, but now we add individual and also in group. In group may be better, still not. But if in a group, I still have to stand it back to the group. So who are the group? These 5 people in the group, they still receive the whole group's response anyway. If I don't know you are in the group, how can I send an email to you? Still have something embedded in the group response. Okay. If it's personal, you can see initially not so much orange, but by the end much more orange. Means more match keyword, but still there's some empty box there. That means there's still some inadequacy. In general, teacher and learning feedback, I think, is useful for the students to think about why we don't think about in that area. But actually, in reality, then you still have to do a lot. So this was about the group. Okay, finally, it's about next ranking. So I just skip all the technical part. My team is here. It is the back of work strategy in ranking the sentences. So I skip all the part, and then finally the outcome is like this. For academic integrity, this is the P intervention sentence. When they just come, we ask them to write something about what is your understanding of academic integrity. They say academic integrity means cheating, assignments, and using. Okay, so they use their own words to express what is academic integrity in general. So what is the outcome? By the end of the day, we have some intervention. Now the innovation is some learning trail. The learning trail costs around 45 minutes. Then during the learning trail, we have some input for them. Of course, we have some emphasis on responsibility, honesty, trust, fairness, and respect. And we have the cases for them, each kind of value. So let's talk about the value system. So academic integrity is not about behavior. So what do we find? We find that initially it is about behavior, when you write no cheating, you have to be honest, something like that. But after the learning trail, they use more wordings about value, about honesty, about trust, about fairness. So this is the change that we have observed. Of course, you can see the ranking of the sentence, ranking up, the top 5 really are related to this, because in that 45 minutes, we inject a lot of this kind of value into the process. So that's why the learning outcome is no surprise that the entitled, and when we read the sentence, it is go up there. But of course, there are some other sentences like this one. Academic integrity is about being honest and responsibility. They pick their own keywords that they consider that is most important, of course. Okay, so that is the trial result. Students, 4-point scale is about 3.7, 3.8. It's about the teachers. The teachers are more ambitious, and they said 5 is the top. Yeah, for the students, 5 is the top as well. So they rate 4.4. So they consider this is very supportive for their teaching. And then this is the focus group. We found that they treasure what we deliver, and they consider this is a good support for them for discussion forum, for discussion making. So that's what I'm going to present today. And we have 53 courses used, so many students, nearly 5,000, and in the past 2 years. This year we are continuing in 2018 and 2019. We're still doing the project. Okay, thank you.
Fascinating presentation. I'm sure you have many burning questions for Professor Paul, but may I now invite you to have a seat first. Clearly, we all, as educators, want to learn more about and trying to reach the younger generation. The younger generation happen to be also the critical mass of social media nowadays. And Professor Liang, our third speaker, is going to tell us about how to use text mining to understand communication on social media. Let's welcome Professor Liang. Professor Liang is assistant professor in the School of Journalism and Communication in our university, and he writes extensively on computational social science, political communication, and public health. So let's go.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So, okay, thank you. So I will try to be very concise and fast, because enough time is approaching. Okay, this is very important. So you can just call me Hai. I'm from School of Journalism and Communication. I'm from a very typical social science department. So you will see that how actually text mining will be used, okay, in typical social science research. But I indeed, okay, took text mining course formally, and Professor LAM Wai actually was my professor. Okay, many years ago, I took his text mining course many years ago at CUHK. Okay, so as a typical social scientist, actually I'm not going to even as a computational social scientist, we're not going to develop new technologies, to develop new models or methods, but we just focus on the applications, and so that's very important to apply, how to apply text mining tactics that for your own purpose and innovatively, okay? So actually most of my research actually using social media data is not because of that the social media data is important, just because actually it's available, okay, publicly available, we can get the data very easily. And really we need text mining to analyze that kind of data. But okay, I'm from the communication department, but actually we're not just merely analyzing news content, but we'll also analyze a lot of actually social media content. Okay, so actually how to use text mining, maybe not just for communication research, but for other social science disciplines as well in general. So first we can use text mining to generate new measures. Okay, not just new measures, but some existing measures. So that means we can just use text mining to measure something. Okay, like we can use classification. Okay, this what just now Professor Nai actually introduced. The classification is very important. Why? Because actually in the past we are familiar with the content analysis that we can just ask undergraduate students to do some actually very labor-intensively work to code, to enable the contents into different categories. But now, actually we have machine learning, okay? That means we can use ask the machine, okay, to automate this process, to classify a large scale documents into different categories as measures. Like later I will show you some examples. So, but in addition to that, this kind of replacement of the traditional conventional content analysis, actually we can use text mining to generate some more innovative measures. Like we can calculate the similarity between the documents, and we can also use text mining to measure information redundancy, and all other different many innovative measures matrix. So the second way is to use text mining for analysis. That means in addition to just generate some measures or matrix that you can incorporate in your regression model. Actually, text mining, there are a lot of text mining models that actually you can use to model the relationships. Okay, we can formally use text mining for hypothesis testing, because this is a key in social science. We are not just want to describe, okay, to categorize the documents, but in addition we want to get more insights. Okay, so typically this is just an example we call structural topical modeling. Actually, this is an extension of the classical topical modeling. But beyond, okay, we can just incorporate some covariance when you are doing topical modeling, so you can see more clear relationships between the covariance and the documents. And also, the more recently that we can incorporate text mining in correlate inference. That means we can test the text effects. Okay, I will show you examples. Okay, so this is how actually we can use text mining, classification, machine learning to facilitate the conventional text mining. Okay, so for example, okay, this is an example of Twitter analysis that we can. The study actually, the original study that is about to test how actually the politicians, okay, the congressmen in the U.S., that how they engage with the audience on Twitter. That is whether they just post something like using a broadcasting way, or whether they want to engage their audience or the followers. So there is a hypothesis to say that if they try to engage the audience, the followers, maybe they will receive a lot of uncivil comments, like swearing. Okay, so that means, okay, there are a lot of things we need to test. So first is the communication style, whether or which one should be classified into engage. Okay, engaging audience, or whether to broadcasting, and also about the incivility. Okay, which one is per night? Okay, which tweet is per night or imper night? Okay, so basically in the past we can just ask undergraduates to code the tweets, but now actually we don't need to do that. But why? Okay, not just because it's convenient, but actually it's very hard to do, because on Twitter, okay, it will be very hard to sample the tweets. For example, the case I just mentioned. It's very hard to define what is a random sample that we can just do content analysis. So the best is to use a population. Okay, but we can just use a random sample as a training data set. Okay, when we train the data, okay, and then we can ask the machine to automate this process and classify the tweets into different communication styles per night or per night. And then we can just calculate the correlation. The second is that this is also very popular in social science that we call topical modeling. The topical modeling actually is very easy. Okay, I actually just mentioned, so very good, excellent application. But in addition to that kind of application, actually in academic research is also very important in particular in social media marketing or digital health or public health surveillance. So what? So the classification actually requires you predefine the categories. Okay, right? So that means you can only classify the new coming documents into existing categories. So, but for example, if you want to do some surveillance online, so you really want to detect some emerging topics, not just the existing, okay? Like the MTR issue, okay? So if you cannot predefine that kind of as a topic, right? So the topical modeling has this kind of merits. So you can use topical modeling like to automatically to detect the different topics, like this reaction to Zika, okay, in the US. And then we can okay, we can see a set of different topics like people actually talking about Zika's impact or pregnancy or whatever. So, and then the CDC departments will provide some information to cope with, to answer the users' concerns. So another way that we can use to generate a new matrix, actually we benefited the geocoding technique. So like on Twitter, right? So not Twitter, but even actually for most social media user platforms, that actually you need to write something in your profile fields, right? Including the location, okay? So it's in the raw text format, like, okay, you are not less likely to say, okay, I'm living in Hong Kong, maybe you're just, I'm currently living in Beijing, okay, or whatever. So, but the problem is that we want to normalize the text, okay? We not just want to know, okay, you age your college, for example, in your profile. We want to normalize, okay, we want to know the location, that's just Hong Kong, okay? So the computer actually can parse this kind of raw text. So why? Because if you must know this, okay? You can Google your college and you will see a map. So you know that means Google actually can understand the unstructured text to extract useful information, okay? And actually Google provides an API to perform the geocoding, exactly like this. So if you have a text, you can just use Google's API to convert to a location, maybe at the country level and whatever. And then you can do some cross-national analysis, comparative analysis, but at a scale, not just compare, like usually in Hong Kong, we compare Taiwan, Hong Kong, and mainland China, right? So now you can compare across more than 100 societies and regions. So this is what I just mentioned, how we can use innovatively to measure not actually traditionally, previously we know, okay, the new concepts, new measures. So how to measure the common ground? So what is a common ground? Okay, actually this is a very also a very typical technique in social science we call semantic network analysis. So we represent the documents in a network. So the nodes actually are the core concepts. The relation are co-occurrence. So actually sometimes we also call, like in media analysis, we call it frames. Okay, how actually the media frame are issued. That means, okay, how frame? Not just about the keywords or the topics, but about the relationships between the concepts, okay? So if you plot it in this way, okay, you know more about, okay, how actually the frame. Like here, this is actually the data collected from online discussion forums about the US election many years ago. Anyway, so you can plot. Actually, it reflects, indicates actually how actually users discuss the US election. But this actually is not important. The important thing is that you will see a convergence process. So you will see the network becomes more dense over time. So you can calculate like the density, or sometimes more formally we call modularity. So that means that we indeed, after a non-discussion, that we may achieve some common ground. That means we are talking about the same thing and actually using similar frames, even we have totally different opinions. Okay. So this is another. Actually, this is a very common that if we can represent the documents into the document term matrix, and then we can. That means we can represent a document in a vector of numbers. and then we can calculate the similarity between the different topics. So why this is important, okay? This is an example on Twitter again. So for Twitter, okay, there's a very good function that we call following. So you can follow any other users on Twitter, right? So, but how you follow the followees, okay? How you follow other users? Usually people will follow that you are interested in, okay, the users. That means maybe share some commonalities, okay, similarities. The post, for example, I'm interested in computational social science, so all my followees are doing computational social science. So, but this naturally will introduce another problem, okay? I will say a lot of duplicates, right? So, because all my followees are doing computational social science, if there is a computational science paper published on Science or Nature, at that day, I believe that you will see that tweets maybe more than 100 times. So, naturally, it will increase, yes, increase information redundancy, okay? So the study, okay, like this, that we can calculate using, for example, using the cosine similarity to calculate the similarities between the followees, and also using some text mining tactics to estimate the information redundancy, and you see how actually people will build their following needs, okay? You can follow and you can unfollow, right? So this is actually the basic result. That means people usually will unfollow the redundant users, okay? And this is also very interesting that we can use the text mining as models. So what does it mean? That means we can model relationship, okay? So I just mentioned that actually we can characterize using the common ground to measure the common ground using a semantic network. But we want to know more, okay? We want to know the causal relationship between discussion between users and the formation of that form, that frame, okay? The frame actually is a concurrence between the core concepts, right? So we basically want to know, we can represent it in this way. We want to know, like I and J, there are two users, okay? Whether they discuss, and I actually has this kind of frame. Whether after discussion will increase the probability actually J actually adopt this kind of frame, okay? Or actually also that whether I and J actually they share the same frame, whether they will discuss with each other, okay? So we can just incorporate this kind of in a network analysis framework, and we can just analyze using a more formal model to see, okay, actually you will see there is a reciprocal relationship that actually political discussion can facilitate the formation of a common ground, and sharing common ground actually can increase the probability of interaction as well. This is a more recent technique that we can use to test the text effects. So actually just now, Professor Liang actually mentioned that actually in the text mining natural language processing domain, that a lot of the researchers actually are interested in analyzing the online reviews, like the hotel, restaurant reviews, right? For social scientists, okay, actually our purpose is not just to extract the opinions from the review comments, but we want to know the effect of those review comments, okay? So you will see, okay, if you see this kind of comments, okay, what effect, okay, right? So we can basically, our problem is actually why not just present the documents, the review comments, and to see, okay, what do you think about the hotel or restaurant or whatever. So this has a very, very, very serious problem, actually, typical problem in social science that I call self-selection. Because actually people post the comments, reviews, or even review, or even view the comments actually selectively, not just at random. So we can combine the text mining with random experiment design. For example, we can just randomly assign the 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 review comments to different individuals and ask them to rate. Okay, and this is the first thing. The second thing, we use a topic modeling again, but not just a very conventional topic modeling. We use supervised topic modeling. So because we believe in the review comments, there are some kind of characters. The review comments could be very long with a lot of characters, right? So the different characters may have different effects. So we supervise, okay? So finally, we get something like this. This is one of my ongoing project. So we will test the trustworthy of different kind of hotel comments. And finally, we'll see, okay, what kind of food? How about food? Okay, food actually about the food comments actually are less trustworthy. People are maybe not so trust the food comments. Okay, but they believe the room comments are very helpful and useful. Yes, about room comments to describe the room size or clean and whatever. So maybe they don't care about the food. Maybe they are too subjective. With different people have different tastes, right? So it's less important than all. And this one, the call complaint. There are a lot of call complaints in the review comments about the front desk is very bad or whatever. So actually keep on less interesting about that. Okay, so this is my final slide. Okay. So this is my conclusion. Okay, so it's not just the text mining, it's not just the computer-assisted content analysis. This is actually a simple use like usually we can imagine that it is classification, but instead actually we can use to measure more in different kind of concepts innovatively, and also not just use it for predictions, text mining, machine learning prediction, but we can also use it in the formal model to test the causal inference, to test the formal relationships. And all it depends on how researchers can use the tools and how to interpret the results. Okay, thank you. That's all.
We are now open the floor for discussions. Any questions for the two professors here? It would be great. Okay, it would be great if you keep the questions short and sharp.
Actually, I'm doing social sciences as well, and I'm wondering how do you deal with the self-selection problem in the social media text, especially when you do like Twitter, they do recommendations from the platform, so you see similar, as you say, similar things from the platform, so you will, so then, I mean, how do you deal with that, so to do the inference on the causal effect? Thanks.
Okay. Hello. Okay, actually there are two ways for causal inference. One is by design and another is by models. So for example, I just mentioned the text effect. Actually we combine the text mining with a random experiment design. So when I just using the social media data, okay, we randomly assign to the different subjects. So this we call causal inference by design. Another sometimes, okay, I guess you are mentioning that we're just using the social media data, okay, without any intervention connected obtrusively. So actually there is a long history in social science for causal inference using observational data set. So for example, we can use matching, instrumental variable, and we can use a panel data design. There are a set of actually very mature established methods for causal inference. Maybe you can just refer to a textbook about causal inference in using observational data set. It's nothing special at all. The only special thing actually in the big data age is there are some, okay, I have to say there are some engineers think that the correlation is more important than causality, but there is I don't believe any social scientist or even for serious scientists that believe that it is true.
this is a question for Professor Kong about the bilingual nature. Did you experience any problems with the Chinese versus the English analysis of the text?
At the beginning, we suppose the algorithm of distinguish the Chinese and English is whether English embedded with Chinese or Chinese embedded with English. But recently, we have changed our algorithm because actually in real life, all the text from English never embed Chinese. It's only the Chinese embed English because they cannot express, especially in e-learning or in many occasions, they have the term in English, but they don't have the Chinese terms. So that's why in that context, there are some minor problem we have to tackle, especially using the hyphen or the words between the English and the Chinese, but how to pick it up. That kind of problem has been resolved recently after, let's say, a few months, because a lot of minor difficulties in extracting the Chinese and English. Because when you do the mining, you go to the database. If it is English, you go to the English database. If Chinese, you go to the Chinese database to do the interpretation. So that is the key point is how to extract. Yeah.
Can you speak about the overuse of Twitter data? Anyone? Seems like because it's available, we use it.
Yeah.
So can you speak to that and how that might be shaping our world? Because we're basically using data we can get our hands on.
Actually, I don't know. So, for example, I'm doing computational social science. Actually, how important the Twitter data is actually for computational social science? I think it's hard to estimate. So, first, I know actually there are a lot of actually researchers that rely on the Twitter data because it's open.
Yes.
But I don't think so that it will be still open maybe in the next few years. It's increasingly difficult actually to using the API now even for Twitter, and now it's nearly impossible for Facebook.
Okay.
It's almost shut down the API for scholars, for researchers. So if you rely too much on the social media data, I think that it might be not a good idea. But for many, actually for most, I know, okay, computational social scientists, actually they are not just relying on social media data. They are using a lot of other actually digital archives, including the books, the journals, and also, actually the only problem for social media data actually is caused by API. So you have less control, but you can use web scraping, even you can scrape the data from other websites. There are a lot of different websites actually you can just scrape down. And also you can, I really encourage that actually scholars to use other kind of digital archives, including the books, collections, and also the camera data or mobile telecommunication mobile data. Yeah.
Just one more piece of information to share is we are from the education university. We are now doing something using the social media to identify those people at risk. Because we at UHK is always identifying issues. When we are deploying technology, we are talking about how to build a better society. So that's why we are trying to identify the students who are at risk, or and they discuss. We can sometimes you can through the text you can see whether they are in a dangerous position or not. So that's something that we are embarking with in our university, because we always are thinking about how to improve education and how to shape a better society.
I just have a question referring to Professor Liang. So you mentioned that
difficult to do the statistical inference, right? Hypothesis testing. But from my limited knowledge, so please correct me if I'm wrong. So the machine learning methods has very limited theoretical, especially when it comes to the prove the asymptotic normalities, right? So I don't know asymptotic normality. So it is when the sample goes to infinity, the distribution is just like normal distribution, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how to do the hypothesis testing. So what is the back-driven machine learning models or the deep learning models?
Oh, okay, so about distribution, okay, so again, there are two methods to deal with it. So first, maybe, okay, so maybe you are familiar with a regression model, and you think that maybe this is only one regression model. Actually, there are a lot of different types of regression models. Okay, it depends on the distribution, okay, of the dependent variable. You know the OAS regression we call ordinary means the square regression actually deal with the normal distributed dependent variable, but there are many other types of regression models that can deal with the skewed distributions. Yeah, so you can use that generalized linear regression. You can use Poisson regression to deal with the Poisson distribution, and you can use binomial to deal with the categorical distribution. You can use even more advanced like Weber distribution to deal with survival data and whatever. So you have a lot of different types of choice.
By doing that, you are so far that you are making some assumptions on the errors.
No. So you always, for all kind of statistical models, you do have some assumptions, right?
Yeah.
So the assumption is about the distribution of the model, the dependent variable, not IVs. Just about the dependent variables, how the dependent variable actually generated follows some certain kind of distributions. It could be any distributions, right? So the second approach is that we can use data mining. So what's the difference between data mining and statistical learning, for example, okay? It means that there are two different things, simply because that there are some overlap. But for a lot of data mining, they don't have any assumptions, so that's why we don't call that kind of data mining statistical models, right?
Can I conclude by asking both professors for a piece of advice on how to make your research outcomes and findings more accessible to the public, so we can be more aware of the information age surrounding us and the opportunities provided by it.
For the bilingual text mining, for CUHK, you have the KEEP platform, K-E-E-P, you have the KEEP platform. Actually, we have put the information there, so if you are trying to connect us, you can through the KEEP platform, and we have the information for you to connect us. And because we are still on the way of further developing the platform, so by the end of the day, this is UGC funded. So every outcome are supposed to be made for the 8 university to use. So it is open for the 8 university to use. So it's always welcome. Anyone, especially even though our budget is now limited, but still we are supposed to, especially for LUHK, because the platform has been included, so everyone can use it. But for the other university, actually in CUHK, they has also been implemented in Blackboard. So that actually can be happen in CUHK as well as BU and LU and then LUHK. For the other 4 universities, then you have to go to the KEEP platform to make the connection.
How to be a wiser Twitter? Any comments?
No.
And how to be a more aware user of all the information? How to be a wiser user of information?
I don't know. Okay, I actually have no answer at all. So it depends on your again research question. So actually, if we are very question-driven scholars, not technical method-driven, so it depends really. It's hard to see. Okay, what kind of behavior is really wise? I don't know. Actually, any kind of analysis could be innovative, as long as it can fit your question well.
Yeah, just a final word. Actually, when we start the text mining, actually, we don't want to do it. If all those technology people are doing, I won't step into this. But when we step into the technology and text mining, they find that they are doing something cannot help education. So that is the only way that we can, as you say, the only thing is we have to work it out by ourselves. Because no solution is one. Because the technology people are thinking about the commercial use of all this technology, but never go directly into education. So that's why education university don't want to do this technological issue. But anyway, we have to step on, or else we don't have solution. So this is the only way we can do. Try to help yourself. Yeah.
So I want to call it, actually there is a famous tweet that nowadays actually we have too many answers, but we only have a few questions.
Professors, for your wonderful presentation and very uplifting discussion. So we'll see you again in the afternoon after lunch. So enjoy the campus and the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you for participating in this panel and the very fruitful discussion.